Well, tonight, former LSU wide receiver Kyren Lacy turned himself in on charges related to a hit and run that killed a man. Lacy declared for the draft after graduating in December. Now, he could be charged with negligent homicide.
In that video, you can clearly hear the suggestive nature indicating that I need you to say that you had to slam on your brakes and you had to avoid a charger.
Okay, just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes and the brakes, like, you know, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that charger and the brakes locked up to avoid that charger. That's
the data shows that he went back into his northbound lane, and at the time of the crash, he was over 70 yards behind those crashed vehicles. Now, it also shows officer body cam footage that appears to show an officer essentially leading a witness into blaming Lacy as the cause of the crash, even though that video shows that witness blaming another car initially, Kira.
Alright y'all, now before we even get into this video, let me say that this has to be one of the most probably emotional videos, and one of the reasons because of that is because I knew of Kyren Lacy when he played football, seen a little of his come up, then seen him take his own life, allegedly, covered that story about it, and then now to find out that a promising young athlete who was completely innocent is no longer here because everyone turned their back on him and lied is crazy. Not only the fact that he's no longer here, but to know he was innocent, to see how the media portrayed him and controlled the narrative, all while he didn't even do anything, makes me realize exactly what Malcolm X said. He said America has one of the most dangerous weapons, which happens to be the media. It has the ability to make an innocent person look guilty and a guilty person appear innocent. And I remember when we were covering his story, the only thing you could find of him online is pictures and videos of him doing thuggish things or waving gun signs when he was really only dancing. Then they spoke about his past and his upbringing and where he's from and past troubles, no matter how small they were, all just to paint this narrative that he was just this negative kid playing college football. Whole time we would figure out that he was innocent. Not to mention, after he took his own life, suddenly a video comes out of the accident he was accused of causing that led to an elder veteran man passing away, and the video shows that he wasn't even the one that did it. It completely showed how innocent he was, and if you ask me, I think they been had that video. Now that video could have helped him out instead of going through what he went through, but in order for them to release that video, it would have proved what we now know to be true, which is that one of their law officials lied to have him incarcerated and even coerced a female involved in what to say to put this innocent student athlete in jail. And just to think, can you imagine losing it all just in a blink of an eye? Everything you already worked so hard for, knowing that you beat the odds to even make it to where you are, and then everyone turned their backs on you. Not even trying to hear your side of the story, but the whole time, you're actually telling the truth. Could you imagine how that feel? Or in fact, how it must feel to see your dreams just disappear from right up under you when it was all in arm's reach. Not to mention the family members who were dependent on you to change the generational wealth within your family. Well, all this was the reality of LSU football star Kyren Lacy before he would tragically lose his life due to a self-inflicted gunshot wound because he was lied on by a crooked police officer and another woman who didn't want to own up to what she did. Now we're going to get into what happened leading up to Kyren Lacy taking his own life, and then the new details we will find out that proved his innocence, along with the video released by law enforcement after Lacy's lawyer revealed the video clip already proving that Lacy was innocent. So before we get into it, make sure you hit that thumbs up button so we can get this video into the algorithm, and if you not subscribed to the platform already, make sure you do so now. Let's get into it. Now, according to reports from Louisiana State Police, on December 17, 2024, Kyren Lacy was driving a 2023 Dodge Charger on Louisiana Highway 20 and recklessly passed multiple vehicles at a high rate of speed by crossing the center line and entering the northbound lane while being in a designated no passing zone, according to police. It said that as Lacy was illegally passing the other vehicles, the driver of a northbound pickup truck abruptly braked and swerved to the right to avoid a head-on collision with the approaching Dodge. Behind that pickup truck was a 2017 Kia Cadenza, whose driver swerved left to avoid the oncoming Dodge Charger. As the Kia Cadenza took evasive action to avoid impact with the Dodge, it crossed the center line and collided head-on with a southbound 2017 Kia Sorento. Police claim that after causing the incident, the 24-year-old athlete drove around the accident, leaving the scene, and fled without stopping to render any aid, call emergency services, or report his involvement in the crash. After the accident, 78-year-old Herman Hall, who was also a veteran driving the Kia Sorento, would later pass away due to his injuries in the hospital. Lacy was identified as the man in the Dodge Charger who caused the accident, and a warrant was put out for his arrest. Lacy was charged with negligent homicide, felony hit and run with death and reckless operation of a vehicle. Louisiana State Police was in contact with Lacy and his lawyer, whereas Lacy would turn himself in, then was immediately released on a $151,000 bail. Lacy's lawyer, Matt Ory, always stood on believing that Lacy was always innocent, and Lacy's agent Rock also stated in January that the facts of the case will ultimately demonstrate the truth, but they respect the need for a full and thorough investigation. And we would later find out that those words would turn out to be true. Lacy played 3 seasons at LSU and finished as the leading receiver in 2024. ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr. ranked Lacy as high as number 6 on his big board for top receivers available for the draft. Just 2 days after the accident, Lacy was declared for the NFL draft on December 19, 2024. However, all of his high hopes will be stripped from him due to the accident. Lacy wasn't able to partake in the Texas Bowl against Baylor, and after dedicating his whole life to the NFL withdrew their invitation for him to participate in their annual draft combine. At that point, it's like his life had literally fell apart. The thing he loved so much and the thing he strived for the most was now gone. Feeling like he lost it all, Lacy would do the unthinkable on April 12, 2025, just 2 days before he was scheduled to appear for grand jury, and 12 days before the NFL draft that he would have been in. Lacy took his own life. According to Harris County Police, Lacy took his own life after a self-inflicted gunshot wound caused by Lacy after a brief run from the police. According to Harris County Sheriff's Office, the constable's office responded to a weapons disturbance call earlier in the night where Lacy and a family member were involved in a verbal argument. Lacy discharged a firearm into the ground, according to a release from the sheriff's office, and left the scene in a vehicle before authorities arrived. When Lacy was later spotted by police, authorities said he fled an attempted traffic stop and a vehicle pursuit took place spanning several miles. It ended when Lacy's vehicle crashed. The sheriff's office said when authorities tried to remove him from the vehicle to arrest him, they found he had suffered from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was pronounced deceased at the scene. Now, before we even continue, right? When we first covered this story, I said that story kinda don't make a lot of sense. I do feel like something don't sound right when it comes to them claiming he just took his own life after running from them. However, that's another story for another time. Now, fast forward to a few days ago, we will find out more details pertaining to this case and also find out there's a possibility that Lacy could have been framed. Now, Lacy's lawyer, Matt Ory, will put out a clip of a video that captured the whole incident on surveillance. He stated that Lacy's car was so far behind the collision, it was not even seen in the video anywhere at the time of the accident. Ory will make a statement as he would say, quote, "We know from the data that Kyren Lacy did in fact pass 4 cars. There's no disputing that. Further north, Kyren Lacy passed 4 cars. However, he was back in his lane of travel, 92.3 yards back in his lane behind the car occupying the man unalived in the crash. He's 72.6 yards behind the vehicles at the time of impact. Keyword, behind the vehicle. That is not how this story was ever painted, never. So what his lawyer is saying is this. Yes, they're not saying that Kyren wasn't passing cars, so he's not innocent in that regard. But the way the narrative was painted was if Kyren was the one that caused the accident from feet away and then fled the scene. And as y'all remember from earlier, the initial reports taken from an April article made it seem as if Kyren did a gesture while driving, caused another car to jerk or be startled, and then crashed into another car, which led to the veteran passing away. However, according to his lawyer, he's saying that Kyren's car was a whole football field away from the initial accident, and was nowhere near the cars at the initial impact. So how was he even blamed? Who knows? Y'all check this out. Now, after seeing that, it's described by Lacy's lawyer that the video depicts an SUV colliding head-on with another vehicle. Part of the collision is obscured by a parked car, with the vehicle behind the SUV coming to a stop. Nearly 4 seconds later, a car identified by Ori as the one driven by Lacy appears in the camera, slows down, and appears to go around the accident. So with it being this obvious that Lacy didn't cause the accident, how or why was he pointed out and targeted as the one that did? Well, according to a Facebook post concerning the new information tying the officer at the scene by the name of Officer Tyler Werner and a woman by the name of Brianna, who is believed to be the actual one who caused the accident, they will have something to say in the social media post. They would take to a Facebook post to say, quote, "Officer Tyler Werner, you fabricated a story about a young kid and he ended up taking his own life. You were able to coerce someone to corroborate the lies you were telling. Kyren Lacy should be in the NFL, but the charges and lies he was accused of cost him everything. Because of social media, he was guilty before his day in court. Now that social media knows who you are and what you actually did, I pray for justice. I pray you are held accountable and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I pray an example is set so that all other officers who even think about doing something as despicable and corrupt as you did will think twice because of the punishment you received. I pray that Brianna, the woman who actually caused the accident, knew the truth the entire time and didn't say anything, is also held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. This whole story is just sad. Lies cost and hate is expensive, but being a decent human being costs nothing. My condolences to the Lacy family." Now, due to this new information in regard to the situation, we will find out that allegedly, Officer Tyler Werner coerced a woman by the name of Brianna Imani to make it seem like Lacy was the one that caused the accident. He even tried to coerce a witness to state a fake recollection of what he saw, but the witness didn't back down and wasn't intimidated into saying a lie against Lacy like Werner tried to get him to do. Instead, it was caught on body cam literally of the man who witnessed everything, stating that it wasn't Lacy who caused the accident, but instead, it was Brianna, the girl who was behind him, and tried swerving around him to avoid hitting him in the back, and then she crashed. Check this out.
In that video, you can clearly hear the suggestive nature indicating that I need you to say that you had to slam on your brakes and you had to avoid a charger.
Okay, just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes and the brakes, like, you know, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that charger and the brakes locked up to avoid that charger.
But then you hear Gold Truck, the witness who's the Gold Truck, what he says. And he says verbatim.
I ain't skid mark or nothing, I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me, she didn't know what happened. That's how she caused that wreck. She was running in the back of me, she pulled on the other side. And that's how that is.
I didn't skid marked or nothing because I wasn't even going that fast. That lady in the back of me, she didn't see what's happening. That's how she caused that wreck. She was gonna run into the back of me and she pulled into the other side. But there's a bigger problem. I then obtained the actual written statement.
And this is from the Gold Truck.
This is the Gold Truck. Now, after the statement we just went through, notice I've obviously redacted names, addresses, and the cell phone number in fairness to the individual who is Gold Truck number one in oncoming traffic. See, the problem with that statement is it is in direct contravention to what was said minutes earlier. It's not written by him, and where it says signed, it's not signed, it's refused.
As y'all see from the video, the statement that Officer Werner tried to get the witness to sign was refused by the witness because the witness knew that it was a lie. So he never signed off on it in the first place. That's the first red flag. Brianna knew she was the reason because clearly she's the one that crashed due to her negligence, but she went along with the officer's story all because it made her look innocent and she wouldn't be the one facing penalties. So with all this information that's been surfacing, a lot of people had a lot to say, because clearly this man ruined not only a promising athlete's life, but he ruined his family. He ruined friends who loved Lacy. He ruined a young man who did everything the right way in life to accomplish his dream of becoming an NFL player, all for nothing. Malik Neighbors, who was teammates with Lacy on LSU, who is now playing for the New York Giants, had a lot to say about what's going on. He would take to his social media to say, quote, "Bash my dog name. It's crazy. The world's sick, gang. They put you on every news channel and sports network when you allegedly charged with something, but when the truth comes out, MFs don't say none and go in silence." LSU alumni and former NFL player Ryan Clark will also display his distaste for how Lacy's case was handled, as he would address it as he commentated a Monday Night Football game. He would say, quote, "He was, at least supposed to be, in the NFL," Clark said. "At some point throughout his career, I would have expected to say his name, so I'm gonna say his name tonight." Pause. Kyren Lacy was innocent. Kyren Lacy should be with us. Nothing will ever repair or replace the pain that his parents have to feel and his loved ones have to feel, but we could say his name. There were so many stations that ran the fact that he was being investigated, so I want to make sure, here with Scott, we could say that he was an innocent man and we could at least know that he has that as he rests. Then he took to his Twitter to repost the video and captioned it saying, quote, "Kyren Lacy was supposed to be on the NFL field this weekend." That made it important to say Kyren Lacy was innocent on ESPN before the night ended. His name and face were plastered everywhere when he was under investigation, so it's only right we say it now. There's no amount of words that will bring him back, but someone needs to pay for the lies, deceit, and evil he endured. Rest in peace, brother. Always love. And they're absolutely right. When he was accused, all you seen was a bunch of TikTok stories about him, people posting videos of him in a negative light and trying to make him look like a thug, stating that all he did is dance and wave gun signs. But now that it comes out that he didn't even do it, now what? Officer Werner and Brianna should be sued and thrown in jail for the same amount of time Lacy would have got just for lying. And if nothing is done, then that should open another can of worms, and it just goes to show that a young man's life in Louisiana don't mean nothing, even when he's completely innocent, and that's a bigger problem at hand. Now, of course, being that all this new evidence came out, showing the truth, and basically proving that these people lied, suddenly now Louisiana State Police have put out their own video claiming that Lacy was in fact the cause of the accident. Now, before we even get into the video they put out to basically cover themselves for clear corruption, here's what Louisiana Attorney General Liz Morrell on Monday had to say about the video put out by Lacy's lawyer. She would state, quote, "The evidence is not disputed here. The Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office was prepared to present the case to a grand jury that showed Kyren Lacy returning to his lane. However, that does not absolve Kyren Lacy of responsibility in this matter. Every witness identified the green Charger Kyren Lacy was determined to be driving as having put the events in motion that led to the head-on collision, which unalived 78-year-old veteran Herman Hall. The district attorney appropriately was bringing the matter to a grand jury so that the grand jury could review the facts and decide the appropriate charges to indict on, if any. I'm continuing to review the entire file from state police and will release a more detailed statement at the conclusion of that review." Now, as y'all know, there's always going to be them protecting their own, so I don't expect them to actually say that one of their own officers is at fault, no matter what proof is presented. But the proof is in the surveillance, so y'all can come to your own conclusions. Now, here's a body cam from the video that the Louisiana State Police put out to prove whatever motive that they had to believe that Lacy was guilty. Y'all check this out.
State police in Louisiana are releasing new video evidence of a deadly crash involving a college football star, but there's a fierce debate now over what the video actually proves. LSU wide receiver Kyren Lacy was considered a top NFL prospect when he was charged with negligent homicide in Louisiana last December. Police say that Lacy was speeding and left the scene of the crash, which killed a 78-year-old veteran. Now, the story taking an even darker turn when Lacy died of an apparent suicide in April before his case could even go to trial. Now,
All right, now here's the video, right? here's a video that the lawyer was saying he's too far behind before the initial. So yeah, they're saying that, right? He was in and out of lanes. All right, we know that. He passed a few cars, whether it's illegally, whatever. They always make it sound crazy. What happened was, I guess they was driving slow. What he tried to do, he's in a 2023 Dodge Charger in 2024. What happened is, he got a little speed. He's young. He probably wanted to go around. Cool. No harm, no foul, because nobody back here was hurt. Now pay attention.
Video shows Lacy's green Dodge Charger driving in the wrong lane and passing several cars before the crash, which is out of view in the...
See? You hear what she just said? The crash is out of view. You clearly see this man approaching and slowing down as he gets to the crash. The crash has already happened, right? So at the end of the day, how is he the cause of it when he's the one that's coming up on the crash? Makes no
video,
sense.
But Lacy's lawyer claims it shows the football star was too far behind the accident to have actually caused it. Our Ike Ajachi joins us now with more. So what more are we learning from this video released by state police, Ike?
Yeah, Kira, the Louisiana State Police, they're doubling down. They maintain that their investigation was thorough and that their evidence they collected supports the conclusion that Kyren Lacy's actions behind the wheel of his green Charger
Now see, here's what they try to say. They're saying he's passing cars illegally, no doubt, right? If anything, that's a traffic infraction, right? Whatever you want to give him for speed, whether it's speeding or reckless driving, whatever the case may be. But you don't give this man a homicide, vehicular homicide, or saying that he's the one that caused an accident when he's all the way back here.
Force those vehicles into maneuvers that eventually led to...
Look at him. Green Charger aggressively braking. These people are crazy.
That fatal crash. Now, the Louisiana State Police, they released a...
Now look, you see where they said the head-on collision was, right? Let's go back. It says head-on collision up here. This man is all the way back here. How can any of his maneuvers force them up there to do anything? Unless maybe they were speeding, right? Crazy.
Louisiana State Police, they released a full briefing video as well as a detailed crash report. In it, they acknowledge that Lacy did not physically collide with those crash vehicles, but they say that his actions forced those vehicles into those evasive maneuvers.
You see how they do you? You see how they do you, right? They're saying his actions all the way from back here is what forced them to get into an accident all the way up there. What is whatever he's doing back here got to do with them?
Now, the Louisiana State Police also released body camera footage from a police officer who was involved in that initial investigation. In that video, you can see that officer talk to a witness who appears to point to Lacy's green Charger as the impetus of that crash. Take a listen.
It was the green Charger. The green Charger caused all this.
The green Charger collided with these cars?
He went right into
He went around that truck.
Okay.
Hear what he said? He went. You see, first of all, they already lying. He says that Lacy went in between those cars. How? How?
He was passing up with her right now, and she had no choice.
No, Charger going this way.
Going this way. Okay.
She was coming this way.
Okay.
They was going this way also. Mr. down on brakes. She went to Dodge.
Now you see, here's the thing, right? You see how people lie? How is she braking for him when he's already back there? And what does whatever he's doing back there got to do with her?
Now, Kira, the Louisiana District Attorney's Office never formally charged Lacy. However, it is important to note that an arrest warrant was made and his case was scheduled to go before a grand jury at the time after he died, Kira.
So you see how they do, this how they do things, man. He was never arrested. Of course he wasn't arrested because he turned himself in willingly because he knew that he was innocent. But they also fail to tell you that not only did he bring himself in, but he was booked. So that's basically an arrest. Even just because they didn't arrest him don't mean nothing. He willingly turned himself in. But he wasn't arrested because he came in willingly and was booked, which is basically an arrest, and he had to bail out $151,000. In which I feel at this point, it should be given back to the family now that we know that he wasn't wrong. Now, the craziest part about all this is I know they been had video evidence because it was taken from body cam footage. So why was he even being investigated when all they had to do was review the body cam footage and see the inconsistencies that was going on? From the cop trying to coerce the girl to the guy that was actually in front of the person that caused the crash, blaming her and not Lacy, and him trying to force him to say that it was Lacy, right? How do we know that he didn't probably do this with the other guys as well? Coerce them into saying that it was Lacy's fault. And you know what I'm starting to realize? Let's play a game of what if, right? What if it wasn't a self-inflicted wound that unalived Lacy, right? What if instead he was taken out to cover up the lies, the crookedness, and the deceit displayed by Louisiana State Police? Because if you pay attention, right, just think about it. If he was alive, the amount of lawsuits he had, the amount of whatever it is he wanted to do, because everybody counted him out without even knowing what really happened, and the whole time he was innocent, telling the truth. So just think about it. The NFL, he couldn't even be in the draft no more. So they would have had to backpedal. They would have had to do something, whether it was a lawsuit, whether it was letting him in the NFL. Then you got to think about the Louisiana State Police, them and they lies, and the lawsuit that he probably would have had against them. There's a lot of reasons to why he had to be taken out, allegedly, because he had a lot riding on him as a person, being that he was innocent. Just think about it. The whole story don't make sense about him running from police and them catching up to him, and he just so happily take his own life, right? Or maybe he was running from them because somebody was trying to take his life. Who knows what happened that night? We haven't seen any footage, any body cam from that night. See, that's another thing. I hope his lawyer also do an investigation as to what transpired that night. We haven't seen any pictures, any body cam videos, any surveillance, nothing from the night they claimed that he ran from them, and then when they got up to him, he was already deceased because he took his own life, right? Don't make sense. Y'all jump in the comments, let me know what y'all think about this. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you're notified every time we drop new content. And remember, as long as you keep on watching, I'm gonna keep on dropping. I'm out.